When we were first introduced to the 2022 WRX, I was one of those people that were just not entirely sold on the car. There were a lot of things that just stood out and I couldn't really get behind. For instance, the plastic cladding, the square fender arches, the Honda Civic taillights, the massive iPad infotainment thing that they just slapped in the middle of the interior. There was a lot of things that just didn't land with me and with the general public, because obviously I wasn't the only one. Now, I think it's fair to say that with a lot of the new car releases over the last few years or so, the WRX is kind of one of the standout ones that has really faced the front of the heat coming from the internet as far as like cars that came out that we're just not entirely impressed with. Besides the new Acura Integra, but we'll talk about that another time. They're coming out with a Type S apparently, kind of looks pretty cool. But either way, the car got a ton of flack right out of the gate from the community. Now, with the rumors also spreading that the STI version for the last generation of this car coming out as an EV, it just was not a good combination of things and definitely didn't start out on the right foot with a lot of enthusiasts. However, there has been some news as of recently that may be just enough to start changing those opinions. As we know, we have Subaru and we have COBB, and those two things go together better than honey mustard on a tuna sandwich, all right? Now, that's not a diss. That actually slaps, and if you don't believe me, I dare you to try it because it's actually pretty good. But COBB has been one of the biggest aftermarket companies for these cars for like the last decade, providing things from tuning solutions with the access ports to exhaust, intakes, and now even wheels through things like Titan 7. So naturally, owners of the new WRX were waiting for COBB to release the tuning solution for the new platform. The access port for the new WRX became available right at the beginning of November. I believe it was like November 1st they launched the access port for the new generation. And of course, people got excited right away, and they got even more excited when they started to see some pretty impressive gains from just a simple off-the-shelf tune paired with some other things like bolt-ons, like your exhaust, intakes, all that sort of stuff. But a lot of us were still holding our breath, including tuning shops and performance shops, because they were waiting for the Pro Tuning software to be released from COBB so they could actually go in and modify maps themselves and start creating custom tunes for these cars to see what they're actually capable of. And lucky enough, it was only just a few weeks ago in December here that we got access to the Pro Tuning software, and shops just went crazy. I'm sure you started to see some posts pop up, especially if you're in the WRX community, of shops just literally just going non-stop, testing and tuning and tweaking, and the results are actually pretty surprising. When you have something like a turbocharged 4-cylinder car, obviously a tune is going to go a long way. Now, just like in the past, something like your off-the-shelf tune that you can go and flash yourself and you can pair with a couple bolt-on parts and things like that are going to give you a pretty decent bump in power and torque. However, with something like an off-the-shelf tune, the tune itself is going to be pretty blanketed, I guess you can say. And what I mean by that is that there's a factor of safety involved with these off-the-shelf tunes that allow them to be massively distributed to a certain platform. Because people might be running different parts, they might be living in a different part of the world. You know, there's a lot of other factors that come to play with this, so they kind of dial everything back to a safe number that they know isn't going to damage anything of the car. Straight from the factory, the new WRX puts out around 250 wheel horsepower and about 245 foot-pounds of torque. And with the release of the access port and off-the-shelf tunes, dyno results were showing anywhere between a 25 to 30 horsepower gain alongside a 45 to 50 foot-pounds of torque gain on a simple stage 1 93 octane tune, which isn't too shabby. However, I've started to see more posts come through my feed over the last few weeks or so, specifically from shops that are surprisingly happy with the results that they're getting from the new WRX, the FA24 engine, thanks to the custom tuning capabilities that are now available to them. One of the ones that I've been following along with has been TPG Tuning. They hopped on as soon as they could, and they've been tweaking around with the car over the last few weeks. And the last update have been able to achieve 388 wheel horsepower and 416 foot-pounds of torque with full bolt-ons and an E30 tune. Another one has been P&L Motorsports, who have been messing around and giving updates with their shop WRX, and at the time of this video, the latest update has given us a look at 373 horsepower and 450 foot-pounds of torque on an E40 blend and 22 pounds of boost. Kind of the general overall conclusion so far is that the FA24 engine that has found its way into the WRX for the first time, is beginning to prove itself a little bit and proving that it has more capability than the FA20 that we've seen in previous years. Now, these are all some very preliminary results, and I wouldn't be surprised that within the next few weeks or months here that we're going to start seeing some higher numbers eventually start to come out. Now, the question will be, though, how is everything going to hold up to this type of increase in power and torque? and especially over a period of time. Now I know modifying a car like this is going to have some negative impacts on things like longevity and puts the failure of components at a higher risk. However, I think it's fair to say that Subaru hasn't had, the best history with things like this, and especially trying to squeeze more power out of their cars. But so far, the response from the community and the owners and the performance shops that have been working on these cars for the last few weeks have been really positive, and they believe that there's a lot more opportunity of the FA24 that hasn't been discovered, especially with the stock internals. So does this make up for all the other things that we have roasted the 2022 WRX for? It's hard to say. I will agree that things are off to a bit of a better start than they were a year or so ago, but again, time will tell on how this car is going to do, especially when the modifications really start rolling out and people are really trying to push some power out of these things. And I'd love to do an update video a year from now just to see how things are going and how these things are holding up to the modifications that people are doing. But until then, I'm gonna keep my eyes and ears open and continue to watch as things happen, and I'd love to know your thoughts down in the comments below. I mean, could the overall public opinion kind of switch with these cars as we see some more things come out? Or, is it just not going to be the car that people wanted it to be? So thank you guys so much for watching this video. It'd mean the world to me if you could hit that subscribe button and like this video. I'm Gels, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.